Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. Despite the struggles of the pandemic, the City of Los Angeles shelters reached a milestone this year by achieving a no-kill status in 2020. How did that happen?
Well, it was sort of magical, actually, and the city's not really going to call ourselves a no-kill city yet, because it was a different year, but we did achieve the 90.49 life save rate, which under normal circumstances would be considered no-kill. So we wanted to celebrate anyway all of the people who made that possible. I mean, everything from our national friends like Best Friends has been quite a champion, ASPCA has been wonderful, and then we've got New Hope Partners, rescues who pull animals, adopters, foster volunteers, nearly 3,000 volunteers that just help us.
Sure.
And then there are people in the streets who do things to help animals that never even meet our radar because they're just out there doing their thing and they're not part of the system. So it really has been a whole village effort, and there have been people here much longer than me who have been working on trying to achieve this, and we wanted to celebrate them this year.
All right, as strange as this question is, did the pandemic help? Because it seemed like absolutely everybody adopted a dog or a pet for comfort, company, and exercise, and our whole safer at home, and then can't do anything except maybe go hiking and walking around the neighborhood. Was there a huge influx of adoptions?
Well, there was a big influx of adoptions and people who wanted to foster pets. At one point, we actually ran out of foster pets, and we had to wait until some more came in before we could give them foster pets to take care of. So I think, but what I think is the most remarkable about it is the return rates. Our return rates for dogs who were adopted or cats who were adopted during that time is lower than it's been in the past. So not only did they adopt them, they kept them. They fell in love with them, and probably, if I were to guess, I would say, okay, you're at home with them all day. I know where my dogs were all day. They were circled. I was, working mostly from Zoom and on the computer, and my dogs were always in the room with me, occasionally making a little appearance in a Zoom meeting, invited or not. But they were there with us. And so, it gave people time to let them adjust to their new surroundings and their new lifestyle, and they didn't bring them back. So it was a win-win for the animals, for sure.
So the no-kill rate at 90%, 90 point what?
49.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's obviously a leeway in that, in which there are circumstances in which an animal has to be put down. So what are those things that are the predominant reasons why an animal can't be?
It's a good question, and it's been a number of years since we have run out of space and had to euthanize anything for lack of space in the shelters, which is really wonderful. So now when you look at those that were euthanized, they were ones that were medically challenged, seriously medically challenged, like irrevocable suffering, so that they're really just keeping them alive might have been questionable, and the veterinarians would feel that it was more humane to go ahead and euthanize them. And then the others, when we have hearings about dangerous dogs, if a dog is declared dangerous, we're required to euthanize that animal. And all those numbers are included in our numbers, so we don't say, well, because it was a court order to euthanize, we take them out of our numbers. We don't do it that way. We just leave them in. And then there are other animals that come in that people turn them in because they've bitten a family member, or they've done something, or there's, they just feel like they can't handle them. We will offer those first to our rescue partners, because some of the rescue partners have trainers that work with them. They have experienced foster homes that will take a dog like that and work with it. It's not something we're really equipped to do in a shelter environment.
Sure.
So if we can't find someone who can take that dog and work with it, and if we think it's too dangerous to release to the public, we will humanely euthanize them.
I imagine, especially in a shelter environment, might exacerbate a scenario because the animals are in a confined space, etc. But you just made me think of something. When you have an animal, cat, dog, horse, bunny, whatever, brought to the shelter for adoption, how do you learn the temperament of the animal so that you can very comfortably say to whomever comes in, don't put this in a house with other animals, this animal is fine around children? I mean, what's the process of vetting a shelter animal so that you are feeling comfortable with an adoption?
Yeah, you're full of good questions.
Oh, good.
It is because a lot of it has to do with the interview process. If it's an owner surrender,
sure.
So that we can get a lot of information. Some people might gild the lily a little bit and might not tell you everything you want to know, but our staff is pretty experienced in saying, well, what about if it's this way or that way, and so they can get as much information as they can. And then some of it is by handling and just working with them while they're in the shelter, the staff and the volunteers. We're doing something in the shelters now that I think is really exciting. All of our staff and all of our volunteers are taking a fear-free shelter class. Now, that doesn't mean so that people won't be afraid. That's accepting the fact that when an animal comes into the shelter, they've never been there before. It sounds different, it looks different, it feels different. So the animals are likely going to be afraid in the beginning. So we try to do things just to calm them down and let them relax. And one of those is just, playing with them, giving them treats, welcoming them, giving them something to sleep on. So until they do settle down. And a lot of shelters don't really start examining dogs for temperament until they've been there for a while. And, been there 2 or 3 days, had a chance to relax, and then you can sort of see who that is. But, I'm very proud of our staff and our volunteers for taking this class so they'll know how to welcome animals into the shelter, how to make them feel not fearful, and to feel like they're safe and they're okay. And we can't really tell them they're there temporarily, but if we get them out into a foster home or a home of their own quickly, then they're not set back by being sheltered for a long period of time.
Okay, myth or fact? I was told at one point in time that when an animal is surrendered and then adopted again, that it has an even stronger attachment to its adopted family.
Yeah, that I could believe that, and it might depend on the particular dog, whether or not it's a dog's dog or a people dog. But I could see that. I think I've heard that too, that they're just so grateful to be in a home and to be rescued, and that they make amazing pets. The other thing about getting one that's already been in a home, chances are pretty good. There's some house training, there's some manners that have been taught, and there might be a couple bad habits that you have to break too, but you start with a dog who already knows some things. And as much as I love puppies and as cute as they are, they can be a lot of work.
I was going to say, yeah. The advantages of an older
yes.
animal over, a darling little thing, because
right.
all small anybody's are cute. I mean,
exactly.
But they require an enormous amount of energy
right.
and effort. So definitely consider older animals when
yes.
adopting.
Yeah.
They're not. So along those lines of keeping animals out of shelters, there's a lot of, technology has really helped. A lot of programs, like you said, you're incorporating into the LA shelters. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you have found really work in regards to keeping animals out of shelters in the first place?
Neighbors helping neighbors.
Oh.
If an animal is out, and if the animal is sick or injured or running in traffic or jumping on kids in a schoolyard, those dogs need to come to the shelter right away, no doubt about it. But if a dog is out, or a cat in a safe neighborhood, and it's just sort of wandering around, maybe got out the gate or out the back door, if neighbors put it on one of those neighborhood watches, they're probably going to get home a lot faster. Putting up signs, and so neighbors helping neighbors is really, we found that's the fastest way. And it's not just we here in LA, this is something that's being talked about on the national scale about what people are finding out and what we've learned during COVID. Mm-hmm. So they get home much faster. If you pick up a dog and you think, because you think it's lost, and it is if you don't see a person attached to it, and you drive it across town to a shelter, chances are the owner's going to look that neighborhood, search the neighborhood, put signs up in the neighborhood. It's going to take them a few days to think about where the dog might be and to start checking the shelters. And sometimes people wait so long to check the shelters that they've passed the stray hole period and the dog has already been adopted out. Right. So when people help people, neighbors help neighbors, I think that's really the best.
Great to talk to you, Brenda.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.